Let's get straight to the day's market action. It's been a day after global cues caused jitters on Dalal Street. The Indian markets recovered handsomely today. Both the Sensex and Nifty ending the day 1% higher. The Nifty Bank shone in trade, rallying 2%, thus ending at a record close. Mid-caps also mirroring the benchmarks to turn positive for the year. Surbhi Upadhyay standing by with a detailed analysis of all that transpired on Dalal Street. Surbhi, seems like the bulls have come back in style.
What a heady rally we've seen this Tuesday. Everything really turning around in the last 1 hour and the bulls storming back into the ring. Some hectic buying is what we saw, and it looks like this would be powered by some serious foreign money, because the nature of the stocks that moved aren't really some small caps that we're talking about. We're talking Reliance Industries surging 3%, many of the big banks moving higher. I'll come to that list in just a moment. The other interesting facet was that mid-caps have resumed their recovery rally as well. The mid-cap index was absolutely in step, in sync with the Nifty. The Nifty itself now just a couple of points away from the 11,500 mark all over again. So let's boil this down to stocks. Banks were very, very strong. The Nifty Bank surging 2%. And take a look at the constituents. So if you're talking SBI, ICICI Bank, Kotak Mahindra Bank, Yes Bank, I mean, you name it, the entire list, IndusInd, Axis, HDFC Bank, every single bank on the large cap screen was firing away today. Beyond banks, there were other big winners as well on the index. NTPC's great run continues with a 4% up move. Vedanta, RIL, as I said, was powering away with a 3% up move. And Bajaj Finance, again getting back to the levels of 3,000 odd. The other key gainers included the likes of Titan, Grasim and Gale. These were some of the other winners of the day. So what didn't work? Some names that were cooling off after the recent rally. IOC would be one of them. Coal India was a little subdued as well. And some of the technology stocks, because of concerns around US demand, BFSI or banking sector demand, that played out on Tech Mahindra, Infosys and TCS. These stocks were on the lower side of the screen. Now let me come to the mid-cap party. And here it's a long list of stocks that were looking good. Arvind, Repco Home, Union Bank. Largely speaking, financials even beyond the Nifty 50 did well. So whether it was Karnataka, Canara Bank, most of these stocks on the upside. Jet Airways' good run continued. Again, about a 5-6% up move today. Interglobe also managed a 3% up move, but SpiceJet took a bit of a breather. Other gainers included DHFL, consumer names like Trent and Pidilite, and also a Dilip Buildcon. Just a few names on the downside, not too many to count today. SpiceJet, as I said, did cool off a little bit. Arvind Fashions ended down 4 to 5% now that it's out of the trade-to-trade segment. And Prestige Estates saw some profit taking. But it's been a very, very smart and very stunning reversal by the bulls. The question is whether it's going to last and whether we can take aim at all-time highs.
Right, Surbhi. Many thanks for taking us through all the transpired on Dalal Street. But let's also get you the latest from the Mindtree takeover tussle. So we told you first, it's official now. The Mindtree board has formed a panel of independent directors to evaluate what it calls an unsolicited offer from L&T. Independent legal and financial advisors will assist the directors panel with deliberations. Apurva Purohit will be the chairperson and spokesperson of that panel. Also, the board of directors of that company will decide not to proceed with a buyback. In fact, that was the meeting held today where that decision was made, where the board decided against that buyback. We spoke to the company's MD and CEO, Rosto Ravanan, earlier today. He said that the independent directors are aligned with the management's approach. Let's hear out what he had to say.
With respect to the independent directors, they are completely aligned with our approach. The board as a whole has endorsed the stand that we have taken and all the steps that we have taken. The independent directors have a statutory obligation, so they will fulfill that obligation as and when that appropriate time comes. But the entire leadership team and the entire board is completely aligned with this approach. So any reports that indicate any kind of differences within the board is completely, totally false.
Okay. And you have reiterated even during your press conference last week that you continue to enjoy support from institutional investors. But you've only specifically named Nalanda Capital, which holds about 10% stake or so. Why have you not named the others? Do you see others backing you as well?
Absolutely. The question was at that time was posed to me saying that what does Nalanda Capital think? And I guess it could have been asked by that particular journalist because they are, like you said, they are our largest shareholder. So we said, yes, we have spoken to them and they are in line with our way of thinking. No difference of opinion from their side. But many of our large investors have exactly that same view.
So you said you named Nalanda because you specifically asked about it. Let me also name a few others. You have, Amansa, you have Arohi, you have UTIMF and several others. What is their stand on this deal?
Completely aligned to our approach. No difference of opinion amongst any of our large shareholders.
Right, and let's move on to the other big story in focus, where Jet Airways was one of the stocks flying high on the large street today. This after yesterday's board meeting saw banks decide to take control of the airline. The stock closed with gains of close to 7%. In fact, the Aviation Secretary Pradeep Singh Kharola met Jet officials today to take stock of the airline's operational plans. And as the lenders take over Jet, liquor baron Vijay Mallya, whose defunct Kingfisher Airlines went down in 2012 after facing a severe financial crisis. So he's hit out on Twitter about that. In a series of tweets referring to bankers, Mallya has welcomed Jet's bailout, but further said, and I quote, "Wish the same was done for Kingfisher." End quote. Now, accusing the government of double standards, Mallya said, and I quote again, "I invested over 4,000 crore rupees into Kingfisher Airlines to save the company and its employees, not recognized and instead slammed in every possible way. The same PSU banks let India's finest airline with the best employees and connectivity fail ruthlessly. Double standards under NDA." End of quote. Vijay Mallya has also reiterated his offer to pay off dues. He's tweeted, and I quote, "I repeat once again that I have placed liquid assets before the Honorable Karnataka High Court to pay off the PSU banks and all other creditors. Why do the banks not take my money? It will help them to save Jet Airways, if nothing else." End of quote. So what are the investors betting on when it comes to Jet Airways? Anisha Jain is here with the Street View. Anisha, what are brokerages and experts saying?
Well, yes, Jet Airways was up in double digits today because the resolution plan of the lenders got approved by the board yesterday. As a result of that, not only a 1,500 crore fund infusion would be made immediately, but also there will be a bit of management change. Because remember, Naresh Goyal and his wife have stepped out of the board, as well as an Etihad board seat has got emptied, and there will be fresh leadership when it comes to Jet Airways. Also, the stock was out of F&O ban today, and that also led to that big drastic move. Separately, we've also got a bit of clarity on the timeline of this new strategic investor coming into the business. Now, remember, Mr. Rajneesh Kumar of SBI told us that he expects that the strategic investor would come into the business by the end of May itself. So now it gives a bit of business continuity and revival possibility for the investors, and that's why it is up in trade. Other than that, brokerages like Citi have also written a note on Jet Airways and the aviation sector. They talk about how this revival plan can give a temporary relief to Jet Airways, and a lot of these stranded and on-ground aircrafts might come back into the airlines, and that means it will be able to gain the lost market share. Remember, the market share for Jet Airways had come down to 11.4% in the month of Feb versus around 15% in Q2, and that was because Indigo and SpiceJet had eaten up into that share. Now with the temporary relief coming in, it is expected that Jet Airways might be able to regain some of the lost market share, and hence the optimism.
Right, Anisha. Many thanks for getting us the latest from there. Let's also get you the latest from the Reliance Communications Ericsson tussle. The Anil Ambani-led telecom company has moved the Supreme Court seeking IBC proceedings for itself. However, Ericsson has opposed Reliance Communications' insolvency plea. Now, remember, the Swedish telecom major received dues worth 576 crore rupees from Reliance Communications on the 18th of March. It may have to return that amount if the Anil Ambani Group undergoes insolvency proceedings. Now, Supreme Court has agreed to hear Reliance Communications' plea on IBC proceedings on the 28th of March. And let's also get you the big headline from the economic space, where Finance Ministry and RBI officials are meeting today to finalize the borrowing plan for the first half of the next fiscal year. Now, remember, budget estimates peg the gross borrowing figure for FY20 at over 7 lakh crore rupees. So what part of this amount may be borrowed during the first half of the financial year? Sapna Das joins us with more on that. Sapna, what are you picking up?
So a quick look at the numbers that the government has already put out in terms of the borrowing targets for FY20. So 7.10 lakh crore is the number that we're talking about in terms of gross borrowings. Repayments are extremely high for FY20. So basically that number is around 2.36 lakh crore. If you net that out, you're left with the net borrowing of around 4.74 lakh crores. Now, generally the trend has been that the H1 calendar, the H1 borrowing calendar for any financial year, generally in the last couple of years, has generally got front-loaded. So one of the major reasons also may be the heavy schedule of repayments that the government has factored in. For example, in June-July 2019 itself, the government is indicating repayments worth around 1 lakh crores. These are repayments for the earlier borrowings that they have done. So keeping all of that in mind, it may be quite possible that around 3.55 to, say, a broad estimate, very broad estimate, 4 lakh crore could be the actual borrowing amount that they might decide for the H1 calendar. Of course, the switches and the buybacks, all of that will also have to be kept in mind, because that may, change the quantum to that extent. Apart from this, it may be possible that they will not really change this estimate that they're given for FY20, though you'll have the new budget, the fresh budget in July. But generally, the borrowing calendar and the borrowing quantums, don't change that easily. At least that's what the expectation is, for July budget itself as well.
Right, Sapna. Many thanks for getting us all the details from there. But some big breaking news coming in. Jet Airways to reinstate 50 flights from the 31st of March. Anu Sharma is here with all the details from there. Anu, some quick relief for the beleaguered airline?
Looks like a quick relief for Jet Airways. We're given to understand from our sources that the airline is expected to reinstate around 50 flights from March 31st. These flights will largely connect 4 stations: Bhuj, Mangalore, Bhopal and Aurangabad. So these 4 stations will get the connectivity again from the end of March. Remember, these flights were earlier suspended from March 20th till around April 25th, but seems like that there is some hope with regard to the aircraft which were grounded earlier. So probably negotiations are on with the lessors, and probably they are getting to get some more aircraft. Remember, 50 flights would mean at least around 8 planes back in operations, or they might be reworking the route situation as of now. They might be suspending some international operations, bringing more domestic connectivity. We'll find that more today when the Aviation Secretary and DGCA will brief the media on the meetings that they had with the new management of Jet Airways. Remember, SBI Chief Rajneesh Kumar, CEO of Jet Airways Vinay Dubey, CFO, were all present in the meeting, and we'll find that more from that meeting at 6:30 p.m. Back to you.
Now, if 7% growth is not creating jobs, then India may not be growing at 7%. That's a blunt assertion from our former RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan, who's called for a revamp to figure out India's accurate growth rate. Speaking to Lata Venkatesh, Rajan proposed the setting up of an independent panel with eminent economists to lift the cloud over GDP data in India. Lata also asked Rajan if he was approached by any political party to be the finance minister. He did not issue an outright denial, but he did call the question premature. In fact, Rajan has even listed out his top priorities if he was to become the finance minister. Take a listen.
Right now, some rating agency has marked down India's FY20 growth rate to below 7%, to 6.8. What's your own sense of the current India growth story over the next couple of years?
Look, I'm in the camp that I have no idea what the statistics are at this point. We've moved them up, down, we've changed them. I think what we need is a revamp to really figure out, what our true growth rate is. Certainly, I know one minister said, how can we be growing at 7% and not have jobs? Well, one possibility is we're not growing at 7%. But really, I think the kind of demand coming from out there that seems to, at least at this point, anecdotal, but we'll know from the elections, is that we need economic growth that reaches us. That we need stronger sort of broad-based growth, which primarily for most people means good jobs. Okay. And what we need to do is focus on that. How do we create good jobs for the vast number of people who are leaving schools, who are leaving agriculture, who are leaving universities, in such a way that they can expand India's growth. A lot of people have said the population dividend should not become a population curse. This is the time when we need to make sure that that, in fact, doesn't happen.
Okay. If I can get a one-line answer from you, are you worried about the Indian Statistical Organization and the data put out?
Look, I'm not worried. I just think we need now to essentially clean up, find out what, in fact, is the source of confusion with the new GDP numbers, with the revisions, etc. And I would say setting up an impartial body to look at it is an important step to restoring confidence. And it may well be that that body pronounces do thus and such to rebuild confidence. But we absolutely need better confidence in our GDP numbers now, given the back and forth that we've had.
No, actually, the bigger problem is that one unemployment report has been kept under the wraps, and that is why the fear that true data is not being revealed. I mean, the worry that it is getting politicized, the statistical infrastructure.
Yeah, sorry. I meant something broader than just the GDP number. The whole statistical apparatus, we need sort of some outside impartial views to give us a sense of, are we doing the right thing and have the right procedures been followed? This is an area where India has tremendous strength, tremendous respect in the past, and I think recent events, for whatever reason, have sort of muddied the waters. I think we need to reestablish confidence, because certainly navigating without good numbers is really navigating in the dark.
Now, the Congress's minimum income guarantee pledge continues to dominate the political discourse. A day after the party unveiled its poll promise, Congress President Rahul Gandhi has called the scheme a surgical strike against poverty. He has also attacked the BJP for asking about the funding plan for that scheme. Now, Defence Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has hit back on the Congress President, asking him to explain why previous Congress governments failed to eradicate poverty.
हिंदुस्तान के 20% सबसे गरीब लोगों को हर साल कांग्रेस पार्टी की सरकार 72,000 रुपए बैंक अकाउंट में डाल के दे देगी। गरीबी पे ये कांग्रेस पार्टी का सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक, उन्होंने गरीब को मिटाने का काम किया, हम अब गरीबी मिटाने का काम शुरू कर देंगे। 5 साल में 3,60,000 रुपए।
ये टॉप अप स्कीम नहीं है। 20 के 20% परिवारों को 72,000 रुपया प्रति वर्ष मिलेगा। इस बात को लेकर कल कुछ उलझन थी। हर परिवार को 72,000 रुपया मिलेगा। 5 करोड़ परिवार, 25 करोड़ लोग। ये स्कीम विमेन सेंट्रिक है। ये 72,000 रुपया घर की गृहिणी के खाते में कांग्रेस पार्टी जमा करवाएगी।
Where is he going to get that money from? And if such a scheme is already giving so many true direct benefit to the people, we think it is just sort of giving a election time promise. They've been eradicating poverty since 1971 with Garibi Hatao program. If Garibi is still there after the Hatao program of Srimati Indira Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi first of all will have to answer that.
Right, so two sides in that argument in that minimum income guaranteed debate. But let's move on to the tech space, where the new apps in Apple's Galaxy, the world's numero uno tech company, has finally ventured into the premium subscription-based service space in a big way. So from news to content and from video games to credit cards, they've come out with a slew of new services. A quick disclaimer though, these services will only be available in America for the time being. Megha joins us and in fact brings us up to speed on the top 5 announcements that were made at that Apple event.
Well, after a week full of surprise launches and new hardware updates, Apple has finally unveiled its subscription services across news, television and games. And here's a recap of the top 5 announcements from the Apple event. The tech giant kicked off the event by adding magazines to the Apple News lineup, and they're calling it Apple News Plus. As of now, users in the US and Canada can pay a $9.99 subscription monthly fee, and this covers your family sharing as well. Let's move on to Apple Arcade. Well, the company wants to take on traditional gaming devices with its gaming subscription called Apple Arcade. The new Apple TV update will now include a focus on channels like HBO and CBS, and users can pay per channel instead of subscribing for large package deals from traditional cable companies. Let's move on to the big highlights. Apple TV Plus. This was the star of the show, quite literally. This is Apple TV's Plus package for original programming. This is an on-demand service which will be available with online and offline viewing. The talent working on the content includes Oprah Winfrey, Steven Spielberg, Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon, to name a few, and it only gets bigger. Finally, let's talk about Apple Card. What could possibly disrupt the credit card space as we know it? Apple Card is a service that users can apply directly using their iPhone, and once approved, the card would be stored on the wallet app. To ensure high security, the card generates a new security code each time you make a purchase. So there is no credit card number, no CVV or expiry date. The Apple Card is currently backed by Goldman Sachs and MasterCard and also offers a 2% cashback reward for each purchase that you make and 3% for purchases made on the Apple platform. Overall, I would say that Apple definitely knows how to put up a good show, and more importantly, they know how to ensure their users stay hooked and locked onto the iOS ecosystem.
All right, so a slew of interesting announcements from Apple, yet to come to India though. But moving on to the other conversation, in fact, that we're tracking deployment of electric vehicles has been slower than expected. That's the word coming in from Saurabh Kumar, the MD of Energy Efficiency Services Limited, or EESL. Now remember, EESL is the agency which has been tasked with procurement of electric vehicles for the government organizations. It had floated its first tender for 10,000 electric vehicles in August of 2017. Now that tender has been closed after much delay in January 2018 with a revised delivery deadline of March 2019, and that deadline has also been extended further to September 2019. Now the EESL MD has told us that around 2,000 of these vehicles are on the road, and he expects to roll out the rest the rest of the 8,000 over the next 6 months. Here's an excerpt of his interaction with Anshu Sharma.
We never had a 1 lakh target. Let me make it very clear. Yes, we did tender out 10,000 vehicles. The deployment has been slower than what we thought. As of now, about 2,000 vehicles are on the road in Delhi, in several other states, including Andhra Pradesh. We are hoping in the next 6 months, we should be able to roll out the balance 8,000.
How do you see the demand for electric vehicles, especially since you are an aggregator? How does it work out for you?
No, many things have happened in the last 1 year. For example, several states have come up and kind of come out with the EV policy. The central government, Ministry of Finance, has come out with a requirement that in Delhi, all the government agencies will use electric vehicles as their next thing. So, as I said, it has been slow, but we do feel that there is a very large opportunity in the sector that we are operating in, which is the government vehicle sector, which we still feel almost 500,000 vehicles are there. And now with the FAME 2 subsidy and the charging stations that are coming up, we will only see a faster rollout.
Right, on that note, we'll slip into a short break. Coming up on the other side, our election town hall. Stay tuned for that.